Let me tell you about Lillian. She's 74. She built her mornings around breakfast, watched her portions carefully, and read every label in the grocery aisle. She'd cut back on sweets years ago. She'd worked with her doctor, adjusted her routine, followed every piece of advice she'd been given. By every reasonable measure, she was doing the work. And yet, year after year, her blood sugar readings crept higher and higher. What surprised her wasn't what she was eating. It was what was happening in the 3 quiet hours afterward, while she was just sitting in her favorite chair. She'd spend her evenings there after dinner, watching her shows, sorting through the day's mail, sometimes just sitting quietly with her thoughts, the way millions of people over 60 quietly end their day. She thought she was resting. She thought she was recovering. What she didn't realize was that those long, still evenings were, in a sense, undoing much of the careful work she'd done during the day. The meal at 6 had been right. The hours after it turned out, were wrong. Here's the study that changed how I talk to patients like Lillian. In 2022, researchers at the University of Houston, publishing in the journal iScience, discovered a single small seated movement that reduced post-meal blood sugar spikes by 52%, while sitting down. No gym, no medication, no supplement, no ritual. 52%. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that movement is, why it works better than almost anything else studied for this specific purpose, and 3 other moves that stack with it to make those after-meal hours the most powerful window in your entire day for managing blood sugar. Stay with me, because I'm counting these down from 4 to 1, and the biggest number is saved for last. I'm Dr. Sofia, and after years of watching patients fixate entirely on what's on their plate, while ignoring what happens in the hours after they eat, I want to correct that gap today. Here's everything ahead. Why the 3 hours after a meal matter just as much as the meal itself. Move 4. A free change to the order you eat your food. Move 3. A humble kitchen ingredient that's been used for centuries. Move 2. A specific kind of walk and exactly when to take it. Move 1. The seated movement behind that 52% number, and why it may be the most useful of them all. Let's get into it. The hidden problem. Here's something that doesn't get explained often enough, even in good doctors' offices. After 50, and especially after 60, your pancreas tends to release insulin a little more slowly. Your muscles also become somewhat more resistant to its effects. Liver sensitivity to insulin shifts. Recovery time stretches. Taken together, that means the exact same meal that barely registered on your blood sugar at 30 can now produce a sharper, taller spike and a longer, slower recovery. Your digestive system is still pulling sugar from that meal hours later, but your body is no longer handling it as gracefully as it once did. Quick pattern interrupt. Think about your own after-dinner numbers if you track them. For many people over 60, dinner, the meal typically loaded with the most carbohydrates, rushed through after a long day, often eaten later than breakfast or lunch, produces the worst spike of the entire day. That's not a coincidence, and it's not simply bad luck. It's biology shifting with age, paired with a real behavioral pattern, and it's directly addressable on both fronts. Here's the reframe I want you to walk away with. Blood sugar management isn't only about restriction. Eating less, cutting entire food groups, white-knuckling your way through meals. There's an entire second lever, what you do in the 3 hours after you eat, that most people never use at all. That window is quietly working for you or quietly working against you. The research on that window has become remarkably specific and remarkably actionable in just the last few years. I'm going to walk you through 4 moves, ranked from foundational to the most powerful. Don't skip ahead. The final move works best once you understand the 3 that come before it. Move 4. Change your food order. Here's something almost nobody explains clearly. The order food enters your mouth can meaningfully change your blood sugar response, even when the meal itself is identical, even down to the calorie. The mechanism is simple, and once you hear it, you'll never look at a plate the same way again. When you eat vegetables and protein first, and save bread, rice, or potatoes for last, that fiber and protein form a kind of soft physical barrier in your stomach. Carbohydrates don't get a free pass to rush through. They're forced to trickle into your bloodstream more slowly, instead of flooding it all at once. Your stomach empties more gradually, and your gut releases slow-acting hormone signals that tell your pancreas to handle the incoming sugar calmly rather than reactively. This isn't theoretical. Researchers at Weill Cornell Medical College, publishing in the journal Diabetes Care, fed people with type 2 diabetes the exact same meal in 2 different orders on different days. When vegetables and protein came before carbohydrates, blood sugar came in roughly 29% lower at the 30-minute mark, about 37% lower at 60 minutes, and around 17% lower at the 2-hour mark. Same food, same calories, same person, only the order changed. A separate follow-up from the same research group, this time studying adults with prediabetes and published in BMJ Open Diabetes Research and Care, confirmed the same direction. Eating vegetables and protein first flattened post-meal glucose across the entire curve, not just at a single reading. I think about a patient I'll call Beatrice, 67, who loved her evening pasta and watched her readings climb year after year. She had nearly given it up when she came to see me, resigned to the idea that her favorite dish was simply off the table. Without giving up a single dish she loved, she simply started eating her salad and her chicken first, then waited 10 minutes, then had her pasta last. Within weeks, her after-dinner spikes were noticeably gentler. The dish stayed, the numbers calmed down. How to do it tonight. Eat your non-starchy vegetables and protein first. The greens, the beans, the chicken, the fish, the eggs, whatever sits on the first half of your plate. Wait 10 to 15 minutes if you can, long enough for your stomach to register that fiber and protein are already on board. Then move on to your starches. Zero cost, zero equipment, and it pairs directly with the moves still ahead. This is the easiest entry point of the entire plan, and most people who try it see a measurable change in their first week, often before they've added anything else. Move 3. A splash of vinegar. If Move 4 was about order, Move 3 is about adding one humble ingredient that's been sitting in kitchens for centuries. Vinegar. The active compound is acetic acid, and it works in 2 distinct ways. First, it slows the enzymes in your stomach and small intestine that break starch down into sugar, so carbohydrates release into your bloodstream more gradually, rather than in a single rush. Second, and this is the more remarkable part, it appears to make muscle cells more responsive to insulin, helping them pull sugar out of the bloodstream more efficiently in the hours after eating, so you end up with less sugar entering your blood and more of it leaving. The landmark research here comes from Arizona State University, published in Diabetes Care. Participants drank a vinegar solution before a high-carbohydrate meal. In those who were insulin-resistant, a pre-diabetic pattern, insulin sensitivity improved by roughly 34%. In people with established type 2 diabetes, it improved by about 19%. A later systematic review, pulling together dozens of trials from independent labs, confirmed the same direction again and again. Vinegar, before a carbohydrate meal, meaningfully blunts both the glucose response and the insulin response. Why does this matter more with age? As insulin resistance naturally rises after 60, your body needs every bit of assistance getting sugar out of your blood and into your cells. Vinegar offers a quiet, no-prescription assist to that aging system. It doesn't replace anything your doctor has prescribed. It just makes what your body is already trying to do work a little more efficiently. I think of a patient I'll call Arthur, 69, who didn't want to give up his morning toast. Toast had been a part of his mornings for 40 years, the kind of small ritual you don't give up lightly. He started mixing 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar into a large glass of water about 10 minutes before breakfast. He wasn't trying to be perfect about it, he just did it most mornings. Within a couple of weeks, his morning numbers, which used to surge sharply and then dip just as sharply, began rising far more gently. His after-meal energy felt steadier, less of that familiar spike and crash he had written off as simply getting older. He didn't change what he ate. He changed what he did 10 minutes before he ate it. And that small window, the minutes just before a meal, turned out to be one of the most underused levers available to him. How to do it safely. Mix 1 to 2 teaspoons, working up gradually to a full tablespoon of any vinegar you enjoy, into a full glass of water, and sip it 5 to 10 minutes before a carbohydrate-heavy meal. Always dilute it to protect your teeth and stomach lining. And if you're on blood sugar medication, check with your doctor first, since combining interventions can shift your numbers more than expected. Combine this with Move 4, and you've now slowed your carbohydrates 2 separate ways before they've even reached your bloodstream. Order matters, timing matters. But there's a third lever that taps into something your body has been carrying around since birth: your own muscles. Move 2. The right walk at the right time. Food-based tricks can only take you so far. This next move taps into something far more powerful: your own muscles. When you walk after eating, your working muscles pull glucose directly out of your blood, largely without needing insulin to do it. Contracting muscle opens a separate, insulin-independent pathway for sugar, one that keeps functioning even when your insulin response is sluggish or delayed. That's why a gentle walk right after a meal can flatten a spike that medication alone sometimes struggles with. Your muscles don't wait for permission. They simply take what they need to keep working. Timing turns out to matter enormously, more than most people realize. Researchers at the University of Otago in New Zealand, publishing in the journal Diabetologia, asked older adults to walk for just 10 minutes after each main meal, starting within 5 minutes of finishing. Compared to walking at a random time of day unrelated to meals, post-meal blood sugar came in about 12% lower on average, and the benefit jumped to roughly 22% after the evening meal specifically, the one typically loaded with the most carbohydrates and the one most associated with that troublesome late-night spike. A separate study, designed specifically with older adults in mind and published in Diabetes Care by researchers at George Washington University, found that 3 short 15-minute walks after meals controlled blood sugar over a full 24-hour period, just as effectively as one long 45-minute walk, and actually worked better after dinner. That research deliberately focused on adults 60 and older precisely because that's when post-meal spikes become most consequential and when short, gentle bouts of movement feel far more achievable than one long, exhausting session. I think of a patient I'll call Rosemary, 71, who found a single 45-minute daily walk too demanding on her knees. She loved walking, but her body no longer tolerated the long, unbroken sessions she'd done for years. Instead, she switched to 3 easy 15-minute strolls, one after each meal, often just around her garden or down the block. Within a few weeks, her 24-hour readings steadied noticeably, and her evenings, once her hardest stretch, became her most stable time of day. How to start today. After each meal, especially dinner, take a 10 to 15-minute easy walk within about an hour of eating. No rushing, no counting steps, no fitness tracker required, no special shoes. Just a comfortable pace you can hold a conversation at. The kind of pace where you could still chat with a neighbor on the sidewalk. Pair it with something you're already doing: walking the dog, watering the garden, taking a small errand up the street, so it doesn't rely on willpower alone. You're not adding a new task to your day. You're attaching a small walk to a meal you were already going to eat. And on the days you can't manage a walk after every meal, prioritize dinner. That's the one with the largest measured benefit. Walking activates your large leg muscles, but there's one much smaller muscle, one you can activate without even standing up, that does this job even longer and with more than double the effect. That's move number 1. Move 1, the Soleus push-up. This is the move I promised you at the very start, and it may be the most surprising thing in this entire video. Deep in your calf sits a small muscle called the soleus. It makes up roughly 1% of your total body weight, and yet it has a genuinely unusual property. Unlike almost every other muscle in your body, it can burn through blood sugar and blood fat for hours without fatiguing. You can hold it gently active for long stretches, and it simply keeps working. And it does this metabolic work best not while running or standing, but while gently activated in a seated position. Researchers at the University of Houston, led by a team studying muscle physiology, found a way to switch it on with a simple seated movement they called the Soleus push-up. In their study, published in the peer-reviewed journal iScience in 2022, participants performed this movement after drinking a sugary beverage meant to simulate the glucose load of a meal. The result? A 52% reduction in the post-meal blood sugar spike, and roughly 60% less insulin required to manage that same amount of sugar. The lead researcher noted they were unaware of any medication, diet, or other form of exercise that sustains this kind of metabolic effect while a person simply sits still. A follow-up pilot study in 2024, conducted in people with prediabetes, found roughly a 32% reduction in glucose response, confirming the benefit extends to exactly the population that needs it most. Why is this such a meaningful gift specifically for older adults? After 65, prolonged sitting becomes more common and post-meal spikes become more consequential. Yet vigorous exercise can feel harder, riskier, or simply less appealing. Knees complain, backs protest, energy dips. The Soleus push-up sidesteps all of that entirely. No standing, no strain, no sweat, no special clothing. You can do it while watching television, reading, or sitting at the table after a meal. I think of a patient I'll call Lillian again, the same Lillian from the beginning of this video, who spent long evenings in her chair watching her numbers climb. She learned to keep her Soleus gently working while watching the evening news, just a slow, easy rhythm in her calves. Her after-dinner readings began settling in a way nothing else had managed, without any real effort on her part. She didn't exercise. She didn't change her meals. She simply used a muscle her body already had. Exactly how to do it. Sit with your feet flat on the floor, knees bent at roughly 90 degrees. Keeping the front of your foot planted firmly on the floor, slowly raise your heels as high as comfortably possible, then lower them back down. A slow, steady, rhythmic motion, essentially a relaxed calf raise performed while seated. Aim for a comfortable, continuous rhythm for as long as feels sustainable. The original research had participants continue for extended periods while seated, but even shorter sessions done consistently after meals provide real benefit. The magic isn't in intensity, it's in duration. Bringing it together. Here's the full stack, in order. Eat your vegetables and protein first. Add a diluted splash of vinegar before carbohydrate-heavy meals. Take a short walk when your schedule allows it. And keep your Soleus gently working while you sit through the rest. 4 moves stacked, turning the 3 hours after every meal into one of the most powerful low-effort tools available to you. None of these moves are dramatic on their own. Together, they build on each other. And none of them require equipment you don't already own. The 3 mistakes. Now, before I close out, 3 mistakes I see patients make again and again when they try this on their own. Mistake 1. Treating these as all or nothing. You don't need to do all 4 moves at every single meal to benefit. Start with 1. Food order is the easiest entry point because it costs nothing and asks nothing of you beyond a small shift in sequence. Layer in the others as they become habit. A stack built slowly sticks far longer than a stack dropped all at once. Mistake 2. Rushing the Soleus push-up. Fast, jerky movement recruits other calf muscles, primarily the gastrocnemius, instead of isolating the Soleus properly. Slow and controlled is what the research protocol actually used, and what produces the metabolic effect we keep talking about. Think of it less like a workout and more like a quiet, sustained hum in the background of whatever else you're doing. Mistake 3. Skipping the post-dinner walk. Specifically, of all the meals, dinner shows the largest measured benefit from post-meal movement. Yet it's the meal most people skip walking after, since it's evening and energy is lower, and the couch is right there. This is exactly the walk worth prioritizing if you can only manage 1 a day. Even a short loop around the block after dinner tends to make the biggest difference. A simple 4-week plan. Week 1. Add food order at dinner only. Vegetables and protein first, carbohydrates last. What you'll notice, not always an obvious feeling, but if you track your numbers, this is often where the first measurable change shows up. Many patients see their 60-minute and 2-hour readings start to come in noticeably lower. Week 2. Add the diluted vinegar drink before your highest carbohydrate meal of the day. What you'll notice, combined with food order, many people report steadier energy in the hour or 2 after that meal. Less of the heavy, sluggish feeling that used to settle in. Week 3. Add a 10 to 15-minute walk after dinner specifically. What you'll notice, evenings, often the hardest stretch for blood sugar control, start to feel noticeably calmer and more stable. Many patients also report sleeping better, which itself helps next-day numbers. Week 4. Add the Soleus push-up during any seated time after meals. Television, reading, sitting at the table. What you'll notice, by this point, most patients are running some combination of all four moves without much conscious effort. The moves stop feeling like a plan and start feeling like the way you simply do meals now, and that's exactly the goal. Safety note: if you take blood sugar or insulin medication, talk with your doctor before adding vinegar or significant new movement patterns. The combined effect of these four moves can lower your blood sugar more than any single piece alone, and your medication dosing may need adjustment over time. None of these four moves are a substitute for your prescribed treatment plan. They're a complement to it. Close. Here's what I most want you to take from today. It is never too late. Whether you're 55 or 85, your body still responds to these moves. Improvement is genuinely possible at any age, and the research on every single one of these four supports that directly. Your biology isn't broken. Your habits can be tuned. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need a complicated new diet. You don't need to give up the dishes you love. You need the 3 hours you already have after every meal, used a little differently than you have been. 4 small shifts, same hours, same life, a meaningfully different result. The smallest move, made right after your next meal, can start to change the shape of your day. Not all at once, not dramatically, just gently, steadily, one meal at a time. If this helped you, subscribe. I put out a new video every week. No fluff, just what actually matters for your health after 60. Next week, I'm covering the real reason your grip strength predicts how long you'll live, and a simple test you can do at home in under a minute. If today made sense to you, that one is going to land even harder. The smallest move, made right after your next meal, can genuinely change the shape of your day. Start at your very next meal. I'll see you next week.